Worst thing about starting out on YouTube? Definitely knowledge that this can't even cover my caffeine addiction. And I am addicted to the caffeine. This story actually begins 375 years ago, when nobody knows what happened. Just one day, everyone sort of woke up, and they have no memory of what came before. That is the premise of my game world, the game that I'm running weekly. That 375 years ago, all memories prior were erased. So anything is possible. Lost civilizations, lost technology, all this stuff. This world of mystery and wonder is what I gift wrapped to my players and told them, there is stuff out there. You just have to find it. And that was the beginning of my social contract. Hey guys, welcome back. I did promise some music, but some stuff got in the way and I was unable to accurately prepare. I hope that I could just rest on my storytelling laurels and entertain you this way. So grab a drink, grab some snacks. I'm going to tell you a story of 5 heroes, a long-forgotten tomb, and some goblins who kidnapped the blacksmith's daughter. Sit back, relax, and let's get this story started. The story begins with 5 heroes meeting at the town's jail. Either they were locked up for some crime, either just or unjust, or they had other business to attend to there, normally to do with the interim captain of the guard named Anton. Regardless, all 5 characters, Toxel, the dragonborn fighter, Zarin, the tiefling paladin, Osric, the dwarven barbarian, Roland, the elven rogue, and Melina, the human sorcerer. These characters were all together when Anton came to them asking for help. Now, Anton was the interim captain of the guard, and as such his forces were stretched a little thin, as it were. So when a report came in that the town's blacksmith was attacked just outside of town, and that his daughter was taken away by goblins, Anton was in a bind. He didn't have the men to spare. And so, having 5 capable adventurers right in front of him, he offered them a deal. Some bounty posters that he was about to put up for goblins. Collect the bounty on these posters. Save the blacksmith's daughter. All these things would have their own rewards, but he can offer monetary value for the goblins. The blacksmith might offer his own reward. He set the stage for the players to go out and see what they could do. Bring the girl back alive. And so they all left. Tentative allies, but they would prove to be more long-term allies. This was just their first adventure, after all. From there, the party gathered at the town's gates, and the path pointed west. There was a path, a not very used path, beginning to get overgrown, but its history was known. Along this path was an old tomb belonging to an old order of knights. Most of this history was recovered after the fact. That being the best possible lead they had, they set down the path. hoping to find some clues as to Goblin's whereabouts. And they found those clues. They found patrols around that tomb. They found well-guarded entrance to the tomb. Those goblins were in the tomb, and they were there for some purpose. It was at this point that Zarin decided to commune with his deity and determine if he could get any sort of clue as to what was going on. And he was pointed to 3 days. On the full moon, those goblins were going to do something. And if they didn't stop them, there wouldn't be a quest to complete. So, armed with this knowledge, they observed and decided to see what they could do. They fought some of the patrols. They snuck up on the guards at the gate rather expertly and dispatched those goblins rather easily. From there, they went into the tomb. Inside, they found, since the alarm had not been raised, the goblins were unaware of their presence. This was good, because now they can just take them at their leisure. And they find in the first room the goblins around a big pot, making dinner or something. It doesn't smell great, but it smells adequate. It smells like those goblins know enough to feed other goblins. And so, from there, they launch into a fight and try to catch these 4 goblins unawares. These goblins, the heroes had wrongly assumed would just stand and fight. It became very clear that that was not their goal. Once the fighting broke out, the closest goblins stood their ground and yelled to the ones further in, who then proceeded to try to run down the corridor to who knows where. But our heroes knew exactly what that meant. They were going to alert the entire tomb. They were going to alert all the goblins there of their presence. And the goblins might not have been difficult to deal with, but a numbers game is still a numbers game. They were 5. And there could have been easily 15 or 20 coming down on them. It would have been a hell of a fight. Thankfully, seeing the retreating goblins, our heroes decided to act quickly and try to catch up with these guys. And they were able to, and stop them rather expertly. From there, they took a moment to take inventory of what's going on, finding that the way deeper into the tomb had a large door blocking what you would assume to be a room holding the remains, holding the bodies. It is a tomb, after all. A tomb is a resting place for the dead. This had to be important. And so they open the door and peer in. And they see a shaman chanting over an altar, but they do not see the girl. And they are stuck wondering, what is going on? Where is the girl? At which point, I have to do my best as the DM and ask the important question. Do you close the door and talk about this, or do you just talk about this now? Now, my players didn't realize the importance of what I had said. But by choosing to not close the door, they were having a discussion in character. And the tomb was now alerted to their presence. And so the shaman and the bugbear that was just out of sight, as well as the other goblin guards in the room, advance on them. And the biggest fight of the encounter begins. The shaman casts Burning Hands and catches 3 of the heroes in the blast. It's a rough spell. Just the fire erupting out, attempting to catch the heroes alight. Thankfully, they were able to minimize the damage and avoid an ongoing flame. But it was still painful. It was still rough. Then, our sorcerer steps into the room and tries to get a clear shot to throw some spells, catching the ire of the bugbear who runs over, attacks her with his maul. She goes down in 1 hit. And this was enough for him to turn to the others, and for our heroes to realize that these goblins can understand common. As he shouts, "Leave now, and she lives." Now this was enough to cause the barbarian to rush in and focus fire onto the bugbear, and the paladin to rush to the sorcerer's aid, use lay on hands to bring her back, maybe not to great health, but to consciousness. From there, focus fire on the bugbear, and the bugbear fell. And then it was the shaman who, for whatever reason, wanted to stand and fight. Seeing the shaman being heavily injured, the other goblin guards, having nowhere left to run as there were no visible other tunnels in this tomb, they threw their weapons down and threw their hands in the air and shouted, "We surrender." A surrender which was short-lived, as our heroes did not trust these goblins, and so they were slain. But that is beside the point. They found the girl after the fight. She was in a cage, stuffed in a corner, in the blind spot from the door. They rescued her, but not before exploring the tomb. A puzzle was written in the room, a puzzle written on the walls, pointing to a secret passage and the key to how to unlock it. The passage opens as our heroes take inventory of themselves and realize that they need to rest. And so rest they do. And rest is what I offer you now, because this is enough of the story. The heroes saved the girl, and there was more mysteries in the tomb. And I might share that in a future video. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the story time this week. I know I promised music. I know I promised a lot of things. I'm still trying to get this together. But right now, I'm going to go back to my initial promise. 52 weeks, 52 videos. So, if you guys want to hear some more story time from my D&D table, I'll be glad to share that. Let me know what you like, let me know what you dislike. Let me know anything. Let me know what I can do to improve. Beyond that, stay tuned. I might have some stuff planned in the works. I mean, I'm always thinking of ideas. But with that description of an actual game ran, because that was an actual game that was run, heavily edited. I think now I can move forward and describe how Dungeons and Dragons works. And we'll be doing that next week. But we'll also be talking about specifically how I run Dungeons and Dragons. As you can plainly tell, I'm not that great of an oral storyteller. I try, but I need to work on it. But I don't have to rely so much on my skills with that at the game table. No. Because a lot of the game is focused around combat and exploration. And there's one thing that really aids in telling a story in an environment. And you might be thinking theater of the mind, but even the most experienced players have trouble with that. Now, here's how I run D&D. I put the map in front of them. I reveal the map based on what they see. And from there, I let them explore it. That's right. I put stuff on the table. I actively encourage my players to see the world through their characters' eyes by showing them the world through their own eyes. I am what many have been calling lately a crafting DM. But before I could talk about the crafting part, I have to explain to you, yes, you, how the game works. And so for that, next week, we're talking about the Player's Handbook. Why the Player's Handbook? Well, it actually has all the rules for how to play D&D in it. So it's a good place to start. We're going to talk about the Player's Handbook. We're going to talk about characters interacting with a game world. That's what we're doing next week. Stay tuned. Until then, I'll see you.